If you believe that to move abroad alone you need to be fearless, I'm about to change your mind. When I decided to move, I was scared. Now I have moved already, so I know if my fears were reasonable. And if I had to do it all again, I would be scared even more. I'm not trying to scare you off changing your life if that's what you want, but I want to share my experience about all the things that can go wrong and that are scary and complicated in practice so that you can calculate your risks better and be more prepared than I was. If you're new here, hi, my name is Alina. Almost 2 years ago, I have packed my life in one suitcase and moved to Spain by myself. Along the journey, I have lost a job and spent all my savings, but I am doing better now. I will be happy if you learn from my mistakes instead of making your own ones. So get yourself a cup of anything you like and let's make your life easier. My first fear was essentially being alone, and it got even more intense once I got here, because just the travel itself before I was here in Spain, it felt okay to me. I didn't realize how lonely it can be, and I had a lot of support from people from home. I felt very loved, very supported in general in my decision to move abroad. But then as soon as the plane landed in Spain, I realized that now I'm all by myself. I need to figure out by myself how to get away from the airport while having no internet. Then I have to find a permanent apartment by myself. I have to do the documents by myself. I have to move with all the stuff that I have, all the luggage by myself. I need to go out and meet people by myself, so on and so forth. Everything I had to do alone. No matter how many friends you have in your previous life in your home country, no matter how loved you feel, when you are moving to a new place, you will be alone for an extended, for a certain amount of time, depending on how lucky you are, on how communicative you are. Before you meet your people, your new friends in a new place, you are by yourself. And especially if you are the type to be anxious, I would say the biggest problem is not only the loneliness, it's the fact that if anything happens, there's no one to get you out of trouble. So even if people from home know that you need help, there is nothing they can do from thousands miles away. So I would say loneliness is the worst part for many people. For me, it's okay to be by myself mentally, but the fact of you have to take care of your safety fully alone, it was quite triggering at the start. Even though I'm okay to be alone in the house, I always have what to do. I always can pick up a new hobby, read a new book, watch a movie, develop a new skill, whatever. I will always find what to do. But managing a life knowing that the only way you do it is you do it alone, it was not new to me, but it was still scary. And I would say no matter how many times I did it, it does not get easier. You get a bit more used to it, yes, for sure, but it is still difficult most of the time, and it can easily get you anxious about your safety. My second fear is probably the most common among all the people who move anywhere. It's financial stability, which I didn't really have at the time I moved. Before moving anywhere, we always need much more savings than we have, and then it seems to us that we might use. For me, this fear turned out to be really valid, because a week after I moved, I lost a job, and then I couldn't find it for the next 6 months. So I hit a financial rock bottom. And for the first year, I was struggling and just trying to get out of the situation. Especially as someone who moved from a country where it's cheaper to live. Even rent for me, actually rent is the most challenging aspect of budgeting, because it is very expensive. And technically all the money you are making when you live abroad is just to have a place to live. For me, when I moved, I had to accept a major downgrade in how much I can afford. Because back in Ukraine, I could buy whatever I wanted, how often I wanted. Obviously, I'm not talking about really expensive purchases like tech, apartments, whatsoever. I'm talking about daily goods, about going out to restaurants, having coffee outside, buying clothes, buying home decor. As soon as I moved, I couldn't afford it, and for the first 8 months, I was only paying rent and buying groceries, which I don't regret any of this, because just the fact that I get to live in safety is already much more valuable than anything I could buy before. And also Spain is a really good place to be, so all the goods that I was buying before to make myself feel better and more comfortable in daily life, now I get just from the sun and the sea and how nice it is outside. First 6 months, whenever I was struggling, I would just go outside and meet the sunrise. And anytime there's any sort of struggle, I just go for a long walk, and all the problems seem to dissolve, so the quality of life upgrades in this way. Financial struggles were very stressful anyway, because it's like you don't have a clear plan of what you're doing next, because you don't know what you'll be able to afford. But usually if you're going to a new country, you need to understand why it's worth it for you, and you need to be ready to accept a life quality downgrade, because it will happen. You will need money for very basic stuff like documents, rent, fees. You will be spending more than you think, and it's not gonna upscale how you live. It's just gonna help you maintain your new life on a very, very basic level. Third point is also related to life maintenance. That is about basic tasks and chores that you need to do in daily life, and that seem 100 times more challenging when you are in a new place. When I moved to Spain, I felt like I'm a child who is exploring the world for the first time. It was not my first time abroad, but I have never been to Spain before, and before I have only traveled as a tourist. This time when I moved and I needed to figure out how to live in a place, I had to focus much more on very basic tasks. Like when I'm going to get groceries, it takes me a lot of focus to understand where I am and which products are which, because obviously it's a foreign language, they look different. My personal characteristic of being very unfocused was not helpful here as well, because I get overwhelmed really easily, especially in crowded places, even in shops. So even if a cheese package looks different from what I'm used to, I really don't understand what it is. Not because I'm so stupid, but because I get so overwhelmed and disoriented in the moment. And because in a new environment there is nothing I was already used to. It was like a completely different world for me, and I had to learn everything from scratch. Same goes for public transport. First time in the city I moved to, then when I had to travel to do the documents, when I moved to different cities. In every place you need to learn from scratch how to use public transport, how you can pay for it, if there's buses, subway, whatever there is, tram. You need to find the most convenient ways for you, and they're usually not just on Google Maps. You need to talk to people, you need to do additional research, and to make a lot of mistakes that are adding hassle to the very basic tasks. I also had to learn to ask very stupid questions, what it seemed like to people around me, probably. But when you need to get something done and you don't understand how to, you actually don't have a choice. You're just acting like a lost child, but you need to get it done. First city I moved to was Sevilla, and there was no people except the locals, from what it seemed like to me. At least there were tourists that were visiting for a day or two, but then everyone else, all the people I had to communicate with, were locals, who firstly don't speak English, which is fine, obviously they don't have to, and also they don't know how certain services work for foreigners. So even when I had to do some documents, I had to go to a place very far from where I lived twice, because someone told me that I can do my documents there, and when I arrived, workers just did not understand which documents I was even talking about, and they were saying it's not this place, even though I had exact address, and turned out they don't do those documents there any longer. And I went there twice, talked to different people, and they both looked at me like I'm a child who does not understand where I am, which was partly true, but it's just something that you need to learn to be okay with not understanding what's happening, to learn to be curious and open, because everything functions in the ways that you are not used to. And it's much better to be a lost child who will be persistent enough to figure out how to do stuff than to try to keep your smart face on. When you're trying to keep a reputation of being someone really gathered and understanding of what you're doing, you're usually lying, you still don't understand, and then it's going to be much more difficult for you to admit that you don't know stuff later on, or you're just going to have to give up and go back to where you started. So be a child and learn to do basic stuff from scratch. This is totally normal. It was like this for me, and I'm not the only one. I heard other people also talking about how very basic daily habits of people just surprise them and shock them. My first fear was that I will get a repeated experience of getting traumatized from a new country, because I have before moved abroad to the UK. There was a huge culture gap and I couldn't get used to the new environment, so I was really afraid that I'm going to give up and then have to go back. This fear was also, of course, encouraged by the fact that it's not safe for me to go home, so I felt additional pressure to make it work, but at the same time I knew that anything can happen, anything can go wrong, and I might need to go back if I really don't like it here. At the same time, it was good for me to not have any high expectations. I knew that I'm just going to give it a try and see what it looks like. If it works, if it doesn't, I was sort of okay with any outcome from the start. And then only about a year after moving, I realized that I actually really like it here. I can see myself living here longer, and I don't regret choosing Spain as a country to move to. And not only not regret, and I'm happy that my choice somehow landed on Spain, because it wasn't like I was obsessed with the idea of living in Spain. I was just choosing a country among European countries to go to, and I chose Spain by the number of reasons, and I'm still really happy with my choice. My fifth fear was not fitting in, because very obviously I don't look Spanish in any way. This fear intensified when I just moved to Sevilla, because all the people there look, I would say, up to one standard. They're all really beautiful and they look completely different from me. So I felt and looked like an alien there. So it was a bit tricky at the start to convince myself that I belong in this place. But then as soon as I moved to Alicante, I found an international community of friends. We have some Spanish people, but somehow Spanish people, they like sticking together, from what I see at least. We have good relationship with some of them, but still they just prefer staying in the groups they grew up with. They usually have closer friends and they are nice to foreigners, but still most of the time they just spend with their local friends. And only now my perspective on the integration part is shifting significantly, because before I saw a lot of hate online towards foreigners who come and not get integrated into the society. But then firstly, I never met a Spanish person who would be angry at foreigners for just being here in person. And then also I realized that no matter what I do, I will not become Spanish, and I don't have to. People who are hating on foreigners are mostly people who expect us to speak Spanish, have a Spanish job, only talk to Spanish people, which is not possible because there's a lot of international people here. They expect us to fully know the traditions, the local holidays, all the culture. I, of course, agree and respect the fact that we should learn about it, but it's not possible to feel it the way Spanish people do. Because no matter what is happening now, I grew up in a completely different culture. And just as much as they would probably never understand the position I'm coming from, I can never understand them as much as they expect me to. And like I said, all this hate is usually just online, and everyone I met, all the Spanish people, they are really nice, welcoming, and they are happy to tell about their country, to learn about my culture and other cultures, because I have a lot of international people in my environment. So I would say the fear of not fitting in was the most invalid fear that I had. And the sixth one was kind of similar. It was about not making any friends abroad. It's not only about Spanish people, but even about Ukrainians, because there's a lot of Ukrainians everywhere, obviously. Many people lost homes, many people are protecting children by bringing them to safe countries. But still, I heard a lot of stories how people never get as close to people after moving abroad compared to how close friendships they had back home. And I had a feeling that I have such amazing friendships with Ukrainians, with people from my hometown or the city I call home, because it's two different places. And I felt like I already have amazing friends. How am I going to make more? It's like I don't even have the space in my life to have more friends. But then as the time was passing, I realized that it's just gonna be two completely different types of friendships. I'm still keeping close relationships with people from home. They're a major support to me and a really big part of my life to this day. But it's a relationship online, which we got used to. Unfortunately, we had to. But it's still a really beautiful relationship that can be sustained if you really want to make it work. And then we still need people in a new country. After almost a year, I realized that I want to socialize, and then I went to a run club and I met all my friends who are my friends now. Obviously, there's more people to come. But at the start, when I just started meeting people here in Alicante, I was amazed with how welcoming everyone is and with how close we can get. Also because of the international community, there's a lot of people with similar experiences, people who had to leave a full life behind to just start over from scratch. And they all have really amazing stories that I get inspired by every day. This is the part that I could never expect to be as good, and I'm really grateful for everyone I met here. It's just much better than anything I could expect. At the start I said that now, knowing what it takes to move abroad alone, I would be even more scared. It is true, because before moving I didn't know how lonely it might feel, how many challenges you have to overcome, how much uncertainty there is at the start. And now knowing what it takes, doing it next time could be even more difficult. I have no idea if I'm going to, if it will be necessary at any point, but just the understanding of what it takes to move to a new country has changed for me. My main conclusion would be that no matter how scary it was at the start, I don't regret this decision in any way, because maybe I'm not an overthinker before I do stuff, so I decided to move, and then I moved, and then I realized how much uncertainty I have to overcome and how much work it's gonna take to build a new life. But because I didn't overthink before, I was already here and I had to make it work. So I would much rather prefer to do the step and struggle than to be one of the people who just dream to change their lives and then they get stuck in overthinking and in imagining all the scenarios it can go wrong and staying in the same place whole life. If you are one of those people, I just want you to know that it will go wrong no matter how much you overthink. And if changing anything, moving to a new country is really what you want from life, you should go for it. It will not be easy, but it will be very much worth it. You will meet amazing people, you will have extremely valuable life experience, you will learn many lessons, you will develop skills to help you survive and advance your life under any circumstances. So just believe that it's gonna work out, believe in yourself. It's the most important mindset shift. You just need to believe that you can make it work. And if you want more content about building a life in Spain from scratch, subscribe not to miss my new videos, and see you in the next one.